Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Friday Ramblings. I am your perpetual host of all things rambling. I am David. So, since we are only 2 days out from the holiday, commonly referred to as Valentine's Day, I thought we'd do something a little different, and hold on one second. Make myself look extra handsome, just for you, as we discuss the holiday of love, but specifically, we're going super old school and discussing the myth and history behind it. That's right, folks, because it's not just Valentine's Day, it is officially called Saint Valentine's Day. Or if you really want to go old school, the Feast of Saint Valentines. And we also have the inclusion, mostly in cute cartoon form, of a little winged cherub-like thing called Cupid. But where does Cupid come in if it's about Valentine? And who is Valentine? Well, that's what we're going to address. Because, in a way, this is pop culture. Down. Don't look super handsome and lovey-dovey when you're stuck up like that. This is the video of the holiday of love. You must look dashing and charming and romantic. So you behave. Don't make me trim you off. That's right, folks. Let's go down to the nitty-gritty first and discuss the origins of the holiday. And of course, the official name is Saint Valentine's Day because it is a day set forth to honor the Saint Valentine, who was martyred in 269 AD. That is a long time ago. That is like so long ago, it is almost pre-Christian. That's where that AD comes in. Yep. The first 3 centuries of the old Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. But specifically, the idea of a holiday centering around this martyred saint did not come up for 200 years later. Actually, like 496, so 227 years. Took 227 years for this man to get a holiday named after himself. But originally that's all it was. It was a Catholic day to remember a saint. Specifically, a saint who, besides being eventually associated with love, and we're going to touch on that in just a minute, is also considered the patron saint of epilepsy. And that's not means much for those of you here in America and who are Protestant or even non-Christian and just like to celebrate the secular lovey-dovey side of it, and that's okay. Hashtag no judgments. But yes, folks, if you are of the more Catholic-leaning side, and you do enjoy the saints and their official titles and associations, besides romance, Saint Valentine is the patron saint of epilepsy. So, if you do need to say a prayer for somebody suffering from that, say it to Saint Valentine, if that's the way you do things. However, here's the really fun part. It was not until the 14th century, almost 1,000 years later, that the holiday became associated with romance due to the rise of courtly love and courtship rituals becoming prevalent throughout Europe. That's a big gap of time, and that's a big transformation after something had already become traditional. This is also where things get a little crazy. Because, see, in order to kind of say, like, okay, this is the holiday for romance and falling in love and all those awesome things. A lot of legends about Saint Valentine and his connections to love, specifically the idea of giving love letters, or in modern format, the giving of greeting cards. You know, nice little whoop, Hallmark moment. Whoop. Aw, so lovely. That came up after the fact as a bit of rationalization. So, it does cause a bit of a mixture problem for scholars who want to study Saint Valentine. So, who is Saint Valentine? Alright, well, let's cue up a little bit of notey notes here. And give you a quick rundown before we jump over to Cupid, which to me is, especially from the cultural, mythology, storytelling side, much more interesting. Saint Valentine, known as Saint Valentine of Rome, is a widely recognized 3rd century Roman saint, commemorating Christianity on February 14th, which we have just discussed. We also accept he is patron saint of epilepsy, so Saint Valentine was a clergyman, alternately reported as either a priest or a bishop in the Roman Empire, aka the Holy Roman Empire, because it was very much Catholic run, who ministered to persecuted Christians. Okay, eventually the Roman Empire became more Catholic run. This was before that. Sorry, got my timeline a little mixed up. But yes, Roman Empire ministered to persecuted Christians. He was martyred and his body buried at a Christian cemetery on the Via Flaminia, close to the Ponte Milvio, to the north of Rome, on February 14th, which is why that day was picked as the Feast of St. Valentine, what we now know as St. Valentine's Day. Of course, like all good saints, there are various relics associated with him. The relics were eventually transferred to the Church of Santa Prassede during the pontificate of Nicholas IV. His skull, crowned with flowers, is exhibited in the Basilia. Woo! I really got to practice my pronunciation skills on some of these non-standard words here, folks. Of Santa Maria in Cosmedin, Rome. Other relics of him have been taken to Whitefriar Street Carmelite Church in Dublin, Ireland, where they remain. But most importantly, of course, is that we get to the 14th century when it became about love. Now, one of the big myths that has been adapted and modified over time is the idea that before he was executed, but after he was arrested, Saint Valentine wrote letters to various people within the Christian community, you know, doing what good Christian leaders do, ensuring them to keep faith, not to worry about him, not to do anything dangerous in the name of trying to get him released. You know, remembering your good Christian values, which is first and foremost not getting yourself killed when you don't have to. I think that's a value everybody can appreciate. In later centuries, it is claimed that one of the people that St. Valentine's wrote letters to was the daughter of his jailer, who was very sympathetic to his plight, and that those letters may have potentially had a bit of a charming romantic slant to them, thus the idea of exchanging love notes, and now commercially printed greeting cards on St. Valentine's Day. However, since this did not show up until after the holiday started becoming associated with courtly love and romance, that part is generally considered not as likely. Still, it is important to note that, yes, for the record, folks, there was a Christian leader who did go by the name Valentine, who was martyred for his beliefs, who was later given sainthood, and later still given a holiday celebrating the life he led that caused him to be honored with sainthood. Various countries around the world do celebrate Valentine's Day and Saint Valentine in assorted ways, some sticking to the most ancient traditions, as we said, it originating as a feast of Saint Valentines. Some, as I said, being more about, hey, romance regardless of if you worship saints or pray to them, which is, as somebody raised Protestant, my style. I respect the saints as people who live very good lives. I respect anybody who wants to view the saints in higher regard, but not my personal cup of tea. I do ever find that the continuing layering of the mythos of who Saint Valentine was and what he did to be fascinating, and a great look at how cultures will tweak the truth over, as we just discussed here, like 1,200 years in the process of trying to put somebody up on a pedestal, in this case both literally and metaphorically. So, let's cross-jump over to our little winged arrow-shooting love god. That's right, a love god, because Cupid is not just a cartoon character who makes you fall in love after some sniper action. Cupid is in fact a Roman god. Now, a lower-ranked god because the Romans, very much like the Greeks, in fact, to the point that in a lot of ways Roman mythology's kind of a Greek mythology knockoff. I mean, I'm not trying to diss Roman mythology, but the fact is, when Roman culture sprang up, they took a lot of influence from the previously existing Greek culture for their gods. They changed some names, added some new myths of their own, specifically Romulus and Remus, the brothers that founded Rome, raised by wolves. But when it's all said and done, when you study both mythologies, you see a lot of things in common. We're going to hit up both of those really quick because, as I said, you can't really study Cupid without studying his Greek counterpart, which is Eros. E-R-O-S. Now, why is Eros fun? Well, because... Hold on, let me get on the right note here. Don't want to jump ahead too much. Eros would, over time, as language moved forward, the ancient Greek word eros would kind of mutate and give birth to the Latin word amor, A-M-O-R, which means love. As in, I am feeling very amorous. I have amorous feelings for you. Modern words. Eros himself was generally not considered a high-ranking god, much like his Roman counterpart of Cupid. And the original word Eros, along with Cupid in both languages, generally translated closer to desire, as opposed to straight-out love, because in the original Greek mythology, Eros is the child of Aphrodite, who was the primary goddess of love, and Ares, the god of war. The reason the god of love and the god of war have been married, I know what you're thinking, a lot of us in modern times would be like, well, that's kind of contradictory, you go to war with people you hate, is that you have to remember, in the original Greek culture, the idea of warrior's honor and, fighting for love of country kind of went hand in hand. So the idea that, well, yes, love and war would be intermingled romantically plays into the Greek culture nature that a lot of people went to war in the name of love. Now, this again gets into something we're going to talk about in both mythologies, is that, as I said, Aphrodite, or Venus for the Roman side, the god of war being Mars in Rome, was considered the romantic spiritual love. Venus is who's responsible for the love you feel towards the person you marry. You know, till death do you part. That lifelong, deep emotional love that changes everything you are. Whereas Cupid, meaning more of a passionate desire, is associated with erotic physical love, physical attraction, and shorter term affection. Now, of course, to the Greeks and the Romans, either one was great and good to go, very positive. They did not necessarily see one as better than the other, but they understood there were distinct differences between feeling an intense desire for somebody and feeling an intense emotional love for somebody. Now, originally Eros / Cupid was portrayed as a slender youth, although the wings were there. However, over time, he was increasingly portrayed as a chubby boy who would be a little more mischievous with his ability to inspire passionate desire and affection. It was during the Hellenistic period that he acquired the bow and arrows as a symbol of his power. Boom! I shoot you, you in love now. His arrows were said to affect not just mortals, but even the gods themselves, filling them with uncontrollable desire. Generally in the myths, Cupid is a minor character who generally goes out and instills desire in people on behalf of his mother. However, there is one main tale involving Cupid, which is the story of Cupid and Psyche. Oh, you know that word, right? Psyche. Sounds like psychology, like the mind. Kind of. You see, psych in the original, or Psyche, again, not 100% sure on how you may personally pronounce it. In the original Greek version, referred to the soul itself, not the mind, as the Greeks did not really see the mind-body-soul division, but body and soul. This is a story that served to demonstrate how, even though Cupid did tend to represent more physical desire and affection, that is still tied up with the soul, because such things can enrich the soul. And, you know, sometimes physical desire does lead to long-term emotional love. Thus, we had a story of desire and the soul uniting. The basics of the story, I'm not going to go super into it because, you know, it is something I want you to read for yourself. But the idea is that Cupid falls in love with Psyche, who is the super beautiful daughter of a king and queen, and gets his mother, along with some of the other gods, to have Psyche offered up as a sacrifice. However, instead of being devoured by a monster, she is guided to Cupid's home. Specifically at the end of a cultivated grove, wherein Cupid's house lies. Upon entering the home, she is told by a disembodied voice to make herself comfortable and is entertained at a feast that serves itself, as well as being sung to by an invisible musician. She's eventually led into the bedroom, which is pitch black dark, and an unseen Cupid consummates their marriage. However, he makes a rule that she can never light the bedroom and look upon him, and that he will always depart before sunrise, meaning, in essence, she is forbidden to look upon him and realize who her new husband is. Eventually, after cajoling, Psyche convinces Cupid to allow her family to not only be told that she is alive, but to come visit her. Unfortunately, her sisters, being both a combination of suspicious and envious, plant a seed of doubt in her head as to the inherent goodness of such a suitor, and undermines her happiness by convincing her that she is obligated to uncover her husband's true identity, feeling that she must be lying with a horrible monster. The fact that she had since become pregnant was her final convincing that she must know who the father truly is. So, Psyche carries a dagger and lamp into the room, so if it is in fact a monster, she can kill it in its sleep. She lights the light, sees it is the very handsome Cupid, and is so startled she wounds herself on one of Cupid's arrows. Struck with the intense passion those arrows cause, she spills hot oil from the lamp and wakes him. He flees, flying away and leaving her on the bank of a river after she had attempted to chase him and explain. She then promptly starts wandering the earth looking for her lost love. And eventually, she is tasked by Venus to prove that this violation of trust was a one-time thing and that she has earned the love of a god. And things do end happily ever after because, these things happen. As I said, there's a lot more to the story, specific tasks being set forth, but as in all things, I do want to give you just enough to encourage you and make you want to seek out these stories yourself. So where does that leave us on this lovely Valentine's Day edition of the Friday Ramblings? Well, you got a saint who may or may not have had any sort of romantic inclinations in his life being paired up with the god of affection and erotic desires. The kind of short-lived passions that can reinvigorate and energize the soul, but are not necessarily always going to lead to a long-term happy ending. Still, experiences are what life is all about, so they are not inherently negative. What do I suggest you do on Valentine's Day? Whatever you want. Well, traditionally, this holiday is associated with courting and romantic love. I'll be honest, I spent the majority of my life without a romantic love, and I sure never tried to confess on Valentine's Day. Mostly because, frankly, I was the kind of guy that always wanted to defy cliches. So, you know what? Watch a romantic movie by yourself or even with some buddies. hang out with your family. They are a form of loved one, even if it is not romantic courtly love. Nothing wrong with family love either. Feel happy. Feel positive. Let your soul be energized. And don't judge anybody. No matter who they love, no matter how they choose to express that love, whether that love is eternal or just for one night, hey, that's what it's all about. Feeling good in the neighborhood. People got to do what's good for themselves. And when it's all said and done, hey, we're all going to be here in 7 days, because there's going to be another rambling, and it may or may not have anything to do with love. And you know what? There'll be a rambling after that, and after that, and after that, because no matter how many people do or do not view these videos, at the end of the day, I do love doing them. I do love giving people a little bit of a sneak peek into the things that interest me, and that have interested a whole lot of people and a whole lot of cultures. So, throw in some comments, throw in some likes, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. No matter what, as I always say, you don't have to be blindly positive, but keep your criticism constructive, because, hey, it ain't Saint Haters Day. No matter what day of the calendar you're at, there is never a Saint Haters Day. So don't hate. See you around. Much love to you.